Exactly. Now, the other way that cooperation can happen is if neither of the leaders, neither of the parties officially sanction it, but they don't resist the efforts of grassroots organizing at the riding level that are
Hmm.
currently occurring all over the place, across the country.
I
Right?
would like. I'm going to say right now, I have no actual indication that this would be what was happening, but I would hope that even if Thomas Mulcair or other liberals or other members of these parties might be opposed themselves to the idea, that they're at least keeping an ear open to listening about what people are saying who are in those discussions, because I'm sure you watched the little piece that the National did
Yes.
on the
Peterborough.
opposition party cooperation,
Yeah.
and it was kind of refreshing to hear that Liberal Party executive make an argument in their case where they were that the NDP should be the candidate in the banner that run in that riding. So uh, that in itself, because gives some hope to the idea, because that's what it would take. Is it would take people in both parties willing to make concessions in various places in order to come to terms. Because I mean, there's a lot of dialogue that would have to take place before I think before anybody could pick a single candidate in any riding. And leave the Green Party, of course, who's the most eager, seems the least likely to have a candidate chosen from their ranks to represent the opposition in a case like that. So,
Yeah. See, for me, cooperation can be even a lot simpler than that. They're going to run all three candidates, as far as I'm concerned, but cooperation can happen in one of two ways. They can do, they can endorse one of the due to their internal polling or whatever.
mhm.
If say the NDP person or the Liberal person or the Green Party person says, you know what, I really know I can't win this, so let's shift our votes over to this guy who's polling a lot better than me. Like the
Which
party,
isn't unheard of in politics.
yeah. Or, or if the parties, even at the riding level, can't get together and agree on how to cooperate, who's to say that a concerned party of people from all a concerned group of people from all three parties can't get together and do their own polling? You know what I mean? And
Right.
say, okay, just for everyone who wants to know here, if you really want to defeat Stephen Harper, this is the polling we're showing. It's all three of us working, all three parties working together here, or people from all three parties working together. Um, we've commissioned this poll. This is the best alternative, most viable alternative to the conservative candidate.
Right.
So, and you know what? It wouldn't even matter at that point in time if any of those candidates had a big problem with what you're doing, because you didn't ask them. You know what I mean?
True.
Myself, it's something I may look at in my riding. Right now, I'm hoping that there can be some kind of official cooperation. We've been having rallies, and there's been people who are active in the Liberal Party, the NDP, and the Green Party at these rallies. We all get along. We all agree that Stephen Harper needs to be finished after this term. Like, no more Harper, please. We will.
Hmm.
Our country is under attack.
Yeah.
Whoever takes control next is going to have more rebuilding to do than anything else. And plus, the way things are going, the rebuilding is going to have to be done in a global economic meltdown, which is where we're going. And so we need to put someone with some progressive, humane values in office. We cannot dick around and progressives campaigning against each other anymore and letting the conservatives right up the middle to power. This is absolutely unacceptable. I don't think there's going to be any formal merger of parties, nor do I want to see that, because I really don't. Because then with a two-party system, you wind up with what they have in the States. And what they
Hmm.
have there is, if Barack Obama is slightly to the left of Mitt Romney, look at the territory he claims. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
You could
incredible.
almost argue in the case of where Canada's at. In fact, the the reason why we're having the predicament we're having is because of a reduction of parties when the Reform infiltrated the Progressive Conservative Party. Who knows? Maybe if the opposition parties can defeat Stephen Harper in the next election and they can bring in proportional representation, that might even drive a wedge between the old PCs and the Reforms. What more need would they have to sit in the same party with a bunch of Reform candidates? Maybe they would realize that they could again reform their own party and have a place in Parliament again.
Well, that's the thing. Like anyone who used to be a progressive conservative and the kind of Canadian who fought for conservative ideals but still had the best interests of Canada at heart, you need to get out of that party and you're going to have to join something else. How's that sound? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like your party doesn't exist anymore. Or you know what? By all means, start up the Progressive Conservatives again and split the vote, split the right wing vote too. You know what I mean?
At that point though, even if there were proportional representation, the vote splitting would be a lot more reduced. You could vote for whatever party represents your views, with the reasonable expectation that your vote will be counted.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's obviously the PCs aren't about to break rank with. How many of them even are there in that party now? It seems like they've. It's like the Borg. They've all been sucked over into the Reform Alliance mentality. But nonetheless, maybe in the future, if there was proportional representation, maybe those people would see that they no longer need to attach their star to people like Stephen Harper. I mean, that's it's. I mean, look at how much in this budget, how many things he's taken out that were even Mulrooney era.
I know. That's the thing. Brian Mulrooney came out against this budget. Like, come on now. We are off the rails when Brian Mulrooney comes out against a conservative budget. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I can't directly quote it, but one of the things he said was, "There's not many things a government can do for the wider middle class of this country, but doing something for the environment does serve the interests of the middle class, because everyone agrees that this is a legacy issue for your children and your grandchildren."
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really nice point. You know what I mean? Because then I thought about it. Yeah, it's really hard to accommodate everybody in the middle class with one issue, right? Because
mm-hmm.
I don't want to go too far down that line of thinking, but the thing is, like, the environment, it should be something we can all agree on. Even if, it really should be. Like, even if you're willing to sacrifice the environment for jobs in the oil patch or whatever, you still have to acknowledge that the environment is an important thing. You're just saying that the jobs are more important, right?
Exactly.
So anything that, it's just, anyway. Mulrooney's out against this budget. That's all you need to know. Like, it's basically, this is government by the oil patch, for the oil patch, and of the oil patch. That's it. We're being run by big oil right now. It's
almost like Stephen Harper looked back over his first year of majority government and thought about all the Enbridge pipeline and the resistance that he felt with environmental groups and his struggles, his massive struggles with Canadian charities that are doing quote unquote political work. And he basically just looked around and decided that he was going to destroy anybody who he thought was an opponent of him, and do it now and do it early, because that's what this budget bill seems to do.
He sent out Revenue Canada to audit the shit out of them all. He's put a severe chill factor into these organizations, as in now they're afraid to speak up. They're just afraid. It was a few years ago when Stephen Harper decided that the Canadian government would no longer fund relief operations in countries that offered Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Okay. And it was a conservative senator, I forget her name, but she came out and she did a press conference and she did some finger wagging at NGOs and said, "Okay, you may not like this, but if you want funding, you're going to have to close it. You're just going to have to put up and shut your mouth." And there was a big furor over that, and it melted away, and it was no change, but it's one of those rare glimpses you see into the true intentions, the true malice that these people bring to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very instructive for those who are paying attention on
Absolutely.
that level.
And that's it's like one of those things where you have to wonder, how far does this guy have to go before he starts to separate his supporters? Where you get there's got to be some reasonable conservative supporters out there who recognize that if the Department of Fisheries and Oceans was doing between 4,000 and 6,000 environmental reviews a year in Canada, and the fact that this budget now might reduce that to 20 or 40 a year, I mean, was there that much red tape? Come on, like, I have a hard time believing that. Like that's
exactly.
just insane. That's insane.
This is out of control, man. Now, I'm glad you brought this up, because when you think of what is Stephen Harper thinking, how does he think that this flies? This is a guy who's governing right now for one majority term. He's already been prime minister for 5 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But now that he's got a majority, he can do whatever he wants, and he understands this. This is what he understands: that with a split vote on the left, he's reelected. If they cooperate, he's done. So essentially, he understands that his reelection is not in his own hands. His reelection depends upon whether or not the Greens, the Liberals, and the NDP can get together and figure something out about how to cooperate, stop splitting the vote, and unseat him. So he's not governing as though he intends to be reelected. He's not currying favor with anybody. He knows that his base is about 30 to 35%. Anything over that is because someone else fucked up. You know what I mean? His base consists of people whose economic interests are in fact served by the Conservative Party. And then there's that massive part of his base that is just fooled into voting for him because of an issue like, oh, Stephen Harper will save the unborn babies, or Stephen Harper will keep the government's hands off my long guns, or Stephen Harper will protect my job against the environmentalists. You know what I mean? I'll tell you straight up, a lot of union people vote Conservative because of the environmental issue, because a lot of union jobs are not green. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? So when you get this base together, then there's also the pro-military part of his base.
That's right.
That's a solid between 30 to 35%. Anything he gets over that is because someone else fucked up and bleeded some support to him, i.e. the Liberals. But he will never drop below the 33%, 30% mark. There's nothing he can do to go below that, because those people that belong in that 30 to 33%, okay, don't pay attention to anything like this. They literally don't. Okay, 87-year-old Betsy gets, who votes for Stephen Harper on one issue, which is the abortion issue, does so because she was told in church. Period. Skeeter from out Bonfield Way, who I like to pick on, who shoots critters in his backyard, and all he knows, the only interaction with the government he's had in the last 5 years was to register his long gun, which pissed him off. He's still going to vote for Harper on that because they're still making mileage on that fucking issue. You know what I mean? So Skeeter is solid in the Harper camp forever. You know what? Next time, even if the long gun registry isn't an issue next time, as in, to my surprise, none of the parties bring it up again. You know what I mean? And try to campaign on that dead thing. Skeeter will still not know anything about any other issue and will just remember the long gun thing and go out and vote.
How about this? How about a question and then a song, and we'll come back and talk about the question that I have.